right, folks, first interview of the morning now. And as I said, we've released our school lunch blues song. It is going gangbusters on the social medias. It's getting shares all over the place. But it appears to me from my scanning of mainstream media that the literal hysteria, the media hysteria over some changes to the school lunch program appears to be dying down. Short of some lefty social media influencer saying that, you know, one of the lunches exploded and killed a group of school children somewhere, I think every shock, horror, probe story that could be written about school lunches has been written by mainstream media. And the guy's head to front it all has been David Seymour, who joins me now from a location. It looks as if you could make a school lunch right there. That looks like the sort of place you could whip up a quick Marmite sandwich, David.
Yeah, this is where we actually drive surge demand for the school lunch program. To try and make this interview quick, I got to get back to it.
All right, look, where are we at now with the school lunches thing? You've had a major provider go belly up owing millions of dollars. Was that the problem?
Yeah, I mean, it's really pretty simple. Well, let's just go back to the start. There's a lot of people who say that there shouldn't be such a program. I actually campaigned on that in opposition. Then we formed a government, and the consensus of our government is that we're continuing it. And then in one of life's great ironies, I ended up being the guy responsible for delivering. The problem we faced was that the government doesn't actually have any money for this, because Labor do a 4-year budget cycle, and their budget basically put aside money for the school lunches for 2023, 2024, but not 2025, not 2026, or any subsequent year. So we had to fill in a $340 million hole, and we could either borrow that money, tax that money, cut something else, or we could try and make it a lot more efficient. So I set out to halve the price of it from 340 million to 170 million. And that is what we've done. Now, there's some people who say, oh, just make it a sandwich. The truth is that creating food at a mass scale, freezing it, stockpiling it, distributing it to regional kitchens, heating it, and then getting it to the schools actually allows you to do it far more efficiently than having thousands of people out there with butter knives using food that has got a short shelf life and can go off, such as bread. So there's a reason why we're doing it this way. And then you say, okay, that all sounds good, but what's gone wrong? Well, first of all, this is the largest food program in New Zealand history. We're doing almost, certainly hundreds of thousands of meals if you combine the
if you put it all together, I do just want to do some maths here. How many school lunches a day, 5 days a week, how many school lunches are being made or provided through this program?
About 240,000, so almost 250,000 a day, about 1.2, 1.3 million a week.
Okay, how many school kids do we have?
About 800,000, give or take, a few more.
So roughly, what, a third? A third of our...
Closer to a quarter. Labor started it at 25% of students.
Yeah.
It's subsequently gone up to about 27, 28, and the reason for that is that the decile ratings, if you like, they change as the different statistics come in each year, and they never took them out. They always put them in.
Okay, and this is just back of the envelope stuff. So how much are we spending?
170 million.
170 million to, my math's so terrible. So how much is that per kid per year for the 240,000 kids?
Look, it works out at about $600 to $700. So the reason I'm...
Why don't we just give their parents $600 to $700 and tell them to make their kids lunch?
Well, first of all, there's lots of things you could argue we should do, and happy to have that debate. But just to be clear, what we inherited was a Labor program that was unfunded, unsustainable, coalition government that wouldn't agree on getting rid of it. The consensus of our three parties is to continue it. My job is to make that as efficient as possible. And if you gave everybody the $3, I don't think they would be able to deliver, and I don't think they would deliver at the level that we can. the underlying issue that we've had, sorry to come back to your very first question, is that there's been some problems. There were problems with on-time delivery. We solved those. We're now getting 99% plus on-time delivery, which is amazing.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the next issue is there's been some problems with quality. For example, people complained about burnt plastic, and I understand that was a real problem. However, there shouldn't have been any plastic. The contractors for aluminium trays. Why were we using plastic? Well, basically because the people that were supposed to be producing the lunches in aluminium trays did not, and we had reheating of pies that shouldn't have been in that oven, plastic trays that shouldn't have been plastic. We've had repeat meals because basically the production of the meals we're supposed to produce wasn't happening. With that company going into liquidation and under new management, I believe we will now start producing what was originally contracted. In fact, that's happening as we speak. And when people get the meals we originally contracted, the feedback is overwhelmingly positive. So you can have the argument about should we be doing this at all. Fact is, it's government policy. I believe the way that we're delivering it will work and will be very efficient. Biggest food program in the country.
99% successful, you're telling us already.
Yep. So in terms of on-time delivery, then we work on the quality.
What about halal? Altogether,
what
about kosher?
Well, again, there's always going to be people with a range of different food requirements, whether it's people who are gluten-free, some people are vegetarian, some people have religious aspects. The School Lunch Collective does its best to cater for people's different needs, but there's also a sense of reality here that when you're doing nearly 250,000 meals a day, it is pretty challenging to make sure that a free meal delivered at $3 is going to suit every possible preference.
There's also an old saying, beggars can't be choosers, David.
Well, there certainly is that. I prefer to meet in the middle, do the best we can to serve people's preferences, but also be clear that, as you say, this is a free meal provided.
Well,
at
not
the expense
free to the recipient, not to me, the taxpayer.
At the expense of the free. Yes, well, as I just said, at the expense of the taxpayer.
Yeah. All right. Were there any problems? When Labor was in government, were the meals halal?
No, they didn't have halal certification either.
Okay. Funny
They also, and look, let's be honest. I mean, 40% of the time they failed on nutritional standards. There were 7 different food safety inquiries into the Healthy School Lunch program. None of them into the contractors that we took on, by the way. So, when they try and paint a rosy picture, actually, you may remember Jan Tinetti, the hapless Labor education spokesperson, she actually put up a picture of a school lunch saying it's disgusting. But what she didn't realise, it was a picture from the program when she was in charge of it. So, people sometimes.
This is what I want to get to too, David. You were held personally responsible for every non-existent fly that flew out of every non-existent heated lunch for every school kid. It became, through mainstream media, or with the assistance of mainstream media and a massive push through social media, the school lunch scandal was fundamentally designed to demonise you.
Well, I have a few theories about that, but
would you disagree with what I've just said? It's been the stick that your political opponent's been using to beat you with.
Tell you my favourite theory. There's some really serious stuff happening in the world right now. It's hard to get your head around. It's hard to know what's going to happen. It makes a lot of people anxious. And I think a lot of people in the media have said, well, that's all pretty tough. Is there something smaller that we can understand, that we can wrap our heads around and just report on that every night? And I think sometimes when big things are happening, some people need a little thing to worry about. And I suspect the school lunch program has fulfilled that requirement for a lot of some of the simpler souls in the media, shall we say, through a time of real upheaval around the world. My other theory is that, they like to attack me, but I think what they've missed is, in the end, people are judged on how they act and what results they get. And I believe we've done everything right through very challenging circumstances, and we will get good results coming out the end of it. So, if they want to beat me up, it's going to fail, because sometimes I think the media underestimate the intelligence of New Zealanders. New Zealanders can see a beat-up when they know it, or they know they beat up when they see it. I think we're going to come out okay. But I just also make the point, I suspect that the fly was probably the jump the shark moment, because this particular meal was heated for 25 minutes at 140 degrees, and then some flies flew out. Now, either we have discovered new robo-flies that can survive 140 degrees for 25 minutes and then attack a child. If that's true, that's a really big story, and TVNZ should have been asking about that. Or someone's telling porkies. Instead, TVNZ decided
well, the source of their story was a second-hand account from a woman called Emily Wright, who by her own admission is mentally unstable and has got a long history of writing very, very partisan party political stuff for the spin-off, and indeed stuff about me, for example, that I considered defamatory. So I just do not see how any journalist worth their salt could have based any story on the spurious claims of Emily Wright, or whatever her name is.